Hello students, welcome to our lecture of microprocessors and microcontroller. So we will continue with our instruction set. In today's lecture, we are going to cover some new instructions in our 8386 microprocessor. So the first type of instruction is comparison and a sign change instruction. Comparison instruction, it is defined in your 8386 microprocessor as a CMP instruction. So the opcode or a mnemonic to specify compare is CMP. So compare instructions, as we have studied already in our practical session, what it does, it compares the two operands, the destination operand and the source operand. In here, your compare instruction, it can compare multiple variables. Like it can compare memory variables, it can compare immediate data, it can compare registers. How this compare is actually implemented in microcomputer or microprocessor? The logic behind this compare instruction is that it subtracts the source operand from the destination operand. And if the value or the result that we calculate after the subtraction, if it is 0, then the two operands are called as equal operands. Consider this example, students, as it is mentioned on your screen, which gives the specifier, which is a CMP, that is mnemonic for a compare instruction, and these are the operand. First one is the destination operand, that is in this case AL, and second one is a source operand, which is BL. So in this example, it will compare the contents of AL and BL, which basically means it will try to subtract the contents of BL, which is source, from our destination AL and check if the result is 0. So this is your compare instruction. Remember students, your compare instruction, it only checks for the two contents of two operands. It does not modify the content of any operand. It does not manipulate or update the content of any operand. Next one is a negate instruction. So negate instruction, it is used to subtract a sign integer or a sign operand from 0. Negate instruction is nothing but a sign change instruction. And this is how it is specified in our ALP. The opcode which is used for negate is NEG, and this is the operand. So in negate we just give one operand. Negate operation, what it does, if it is a positive content, it will reverse the sign and make it negative. And if it is a negative value, then it will convert it to positive. And which is why it is considered as a sign change instruction. So in this example, negate AL and EGAL will negate or reverse the sign of your content which is there in your AL register. So these two are our compare and sign change instructions. Next, students will learn what are control instructions. So control transfer instruction, they are the instruction which allows us to transfer the control from one location in your source code to some another location in your source code. As you all can see, your control transfer instructions, they are divided into two variants. First one is an unconditional control transfer and second one is a conditional control transfer. Your unconditional control transfer, these instructions, they do not depend themselves on any condition, which means it will always be executed. These control instructions will always get executed. So as you can read from here, control transfers are always executed in unconditional control transfer instructions. But in your conditional control transfer, Your transfer of the control from source address to your destination address, it basically depends on the result or the condition of operation. So if the condition is satisfied, it may transfer the content or the control to some another location. And if the condition is not satisfied, it may or may not transfer the control. So this situation may or may not transfer the control of the execution. But your unconditional control stands for it will always transfer the control of execution. So now let's see in detail what are these control transfer instructions. First we'll see and traverse about different types of unconditional transfer instructions. So as you can see on your screen, these are 5 types of unconditional transfer instruction. JMP, that is jump, call instruction, RET, which is return, INT, that is interrupt, and IRET, which is return from interrupt. We'll see each of these instructions in detail. The first one is a jump instruction. So jump instruction, it falls under unconditional transfer instruction because it will unconditionally transfer the control from the source address to the destination address. So this jump instruction, it will always get executed and it will always jump from one location to another. So this is how your jump instruction is specified in assembly language program. First is the mnemonic or opcode associated with the instruction, that is JMP, and its operand is the label or the name of the label you want to jump to. Let's understand this better using an example. So this is your example as you can see. So in first instruction what we are doing, we are just initializing our registers AX and BX. I am transferring value 10 to my AX register and I am transferring value Y to BX register. After that comes the label. Label is specified by your name of the label and 2 colons, which gives the entry point for the label. So once this is executed, the control will enter into label where it will increment the contents of AX. That is, it is adding AX and 1. That means it is incrementing the content of AX. And after that, it is performing the multiplication operation on AX and BX content. Once it performs the multiplication, it will go on and it will execute the last statement, which is JMP and the name of the label. So when this statement is executed, and since this is an unconditional jump, it will transfer the control to your label. So what will happen? Once we execute this statement, the control will go directly as at the entry point of your label. And it will again execute this instruction, again execute the jump and return back to the label. So it will keep on executing this label since there is unconditional jump mentioned over here. So it will always execute same set of statements. But only these 2 statements will be skipped. So this is how your unconditional jump works. So students, your jump operation, it basically performs similar way when it comes to the variants of jump instruction. It only differs in how the address, that is the destination address, is calculated to perform the jump. So first variant in unconditional jump instruction is a direct jump instruction. So in direct JMP, that is a direct jump instruction, the address of the destination is already given in the instruction. So over here, microprocessor, it can achieve the address in the instruction itself, directly in the instruction. That is why it is known as direct jump. Next variant is indirect jump. So in indirect JMP instruction, it can achieve the address of the destination through some register or through some memory operand. Actual instruction address, it is not mentioned in the instruction, whereas it is mentioned in the register or memory operand through which we can fetch that address, and that is why it is known as indirect, because to retrieve the address we have to go through the register or through some memory operand. Third type of variant is a direct near jump. So it is a direct jump, but there is some variation in that. So over here, to calculate the address, the final address or the destination address of the jump, it uses something known as a displacement. As we all know, students, displacement is nothing but an integer which can be a byte, size of the integer can be a byte, word or double word. So how the address is calculated in direct near jump? It will take the address which is there in your instruction pointer. So as you all know, our instruction pointer, it contains the address of the next instruction to be fetched, right? So direct near jump will make use of instruction pointer register and will obtain the address which is saved in that instruction pointer register, to which it will add the displacement factor which is mentioned in the instruction, and together this instruction pointer address and your displacement factor will give the final destination address. So this is how we calculate the address in direct near jump instruction. Next variant is indirect near jump. So indirect near jump is similar to indirect jump. It uses the address which is given through the register or through the memory operand. But over here it also makes use of the third factor, that is a displacement. The final destination address is calculated as the result or the address which is there in the register plus some displacement factor which is mentioned in the instruction, or the address which is given in the memory operand plus the displacement factor which is mentioned in the register. So addition of the displacement and the address which is there in register or memory gives us the final destination address in indirect near jump instruction. So these are the four variants of our jump instruction, which varies accordingly to how the destination address is calculated by each jump instruction. Let's move on to the next topic, which is a call instruction. So students, your call instruction is just similar to your jump instruction. We use jump instruction to jump from one location in one program to another location in that same program. Similarly, we use call instruction or call operation to move or call the logic which is there present in the same program or the logic which is present in the different source file. So this is how we use call instruction. Call instruction basically tries to invoke or tries to call the logic which is placed anywhere in your source file or in some another file. Call instruction, it activates the out of line procedure. And when it activates this out of line procedure, on the stack it saves the address of the line which is just following that call instruction, so that whenever return is called, it can use that particular address of the instruction. Your call is specified using this syntax in your assembly language program. First comes the mnemonic or a opcode which is call, and after that comes the label which is the name of the label or the name of the procedure that you need to or you want to invoke. So that's it. This is how we can implement call instruction in assembly language program. After every call instruction, we place the return instruction which will then give or returns the address of the next line which was just after your call instruction. So the control is given back to the original program using your return instruction. Next is your return type instructions, which are of two types, that is return and return from interrupt. So return from interrupt, it is used to terminate the execution of the procedure. So to get the control back on line or back on page of the sequential execution, we use your RET or return instruction. It transfers the control through the backlink on the stack or to the program that originally invoked the procedure. And the second type of return instruction is return from interrupt. So it is used to return the control to the interrupted procedure. Like for example, when your CPU is working on something or when it is executing a certain program, your interrupt can notify the CPU or the microprocessor and take the control to that particular interrupt. Once that interrupt is executed, you need to shift the control back to the original program, right? So how do we do that? Using your IRET instruction. So to get the control back from the interrupt to your main program, we use IRET instruction, which is return from interrupt. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is conditional jump instructions. Now previously we have seen what are unconditional jumps. Unconditional jumps are the ones which will be executed always. That means it will perform the jump no matter what, or it will not base its jump on some condition. But in conditional jump instruction, it will perform the jump only when certain condition is satisfied or vice versa. So it is typically condition based instruction. It may or may not perform the execution, or it may or may not transfer the control of the execution. Now students, in conditional jump, it contains a displacement factor, and that displacement factor is added to perform this jump. Now when we say that the displacement factor is added in your conditional jump, it is of two variants. The displacement can be signed or it can be unsigned. If the displacement is positive, that means if it is unsigned, that is positive, then your jump will jump ahead in your program logic. But if your conditional jump and the displacement factor is negative, then your jump will take the control backwards in your program logic. So for positive displacement, the logic will jump ahead, and for negative displacement, the logic will jump backwards. So this is how displacement factor decides how the conditional jump can transfer its control, in which direction. Now let's see this example in order to understand what is conditional jump. So students, in your for your conditional jump in 8386, there are various mnemonics and opcodes which are specified by 8386. I have already shared the file with you all on Classroom. You can also check it on net. There are different types of mnemonics associated with each conditional jump. Based on the condition, there are different opcodes which are specified your jumps. So please go through each jump conditions and jump mnemonics. So the first one is JA, which is jump when equal. Now look at this example, students. So in this example, first we perform the operation or the instruction which tries to compare the contents of dx with 0. It checks whether the content of dx is 0. In second line, which is JEL7, what it does is it jumps the control to your label 7 only when these two operands are equal. So this instruction will perform the jump only when dx and 0, 0 are equal. That means it is jump when equal. So it will transfer the control to your label number 7, and then all the statements which are there grouped under label number 7 will be executed. So this is how conditional jump is executed in your assembly language program. Last topic students is your loop instruction. So as we have studied earlier in our practical class, loop instructions allows us to loop over or iterate over certain statement based on certain condition. So if the condition is satisfied, it will iterate over or it will repeat certain statements or it may not. So there are three types of loop variants in assembly language program. So loops are specified using a opcode or a mnemonic which is LOOP, that is loop, and its operand is nothing but the name of the label, that is name of the group of statements that you want to repeat over. So the first is loop statement or loop instruction. So this is loop while ECX is not equal to 0. Your loop instruction, it always saves the counter, that is the number of time the loop has to be executed in your ECX register. And these three variants, it depends on this content of ECX register. Your first loop instruction is your standard loop instruction. It will execute or it will go on iterating over loop until the ECX becomes 0. So whenever ECX is not equal to 0, it will keep on iterating over the block of statements and keep on decrementing the content of ECX register. Next is loop E instruction. So it will also loop whenever ECX is equal to 0 and whenever your Z flag is equal to 0, that is a 0 flag. Loop not equal, it will loop while your Z flag is not equal to 0. It is also named as loop NZ. So it will perform the iteration even when your 0 flag is equal to 1 and not equal to 0. So these are the three loop instructions that we use in assembly language programming. So students, that is it for this particular session. If you have any difficulties, you can drop me a mail on my email ID. Thank you everyone.